software-defined radio has been around, especially with the flex systems. Most people should at least have an idea that it's there, and I've seen some articles in QST. There have been quite a few lately. So I'm just going to jump in with some basics. There's a lot of different software-defined radios available now. There's an enormous list we're going to have up later. This is a representation of some of the displays you can see that are out there. We have HD, SDR, commercial stuff, flex radio, SDR Sharp. And these are some of the other displays. Top is SDR Max. That's the QSR1 uses that. That's Phil Covington's software. And of course we have the Flex Radio Power SDR, and the new Flex Radio is another output for one of the Flex Radio displays. All right, so most of you should be familiar by now with the fact that there are a lot of SDRs out there. A lot of us are already making use of software like Ham Radio Deluxe and other CAT control software, OmniRig and such, to make rig access better and to use it with digital modes like PSK. While these are interfaces, they are not software-defined radios. All right, so here's a screen capture of a Ham Radio Deluxe screen controlling a K3 in this case. This is some of the better software that Ham Radio Deluxe comes with, especially if you have the unlicensed version.
Is that better than the licensed version?
From what I hear, you know, the first thing I do when I get involved with anything is join the Yahoo groups and start following the threads that are going on. And there's a lot of complaints right now about use and support. But the free version, the last free version that was out, is still available and it runs fine. This is the Digital Master 780 application that's built in with Ham Radio Deluxe, but runs on its own as a single application once you've installed it. And it's just fantastic for digital modes. You just click on PSK, and if you're controlling your rig with it, it'll go to the proper frequencies or the default frequencies for the mode you want to play with. For RIDI, for all these Olivia, all these other modes that are available out there. A lot of you might have a pan adapter. Pan adapters used to be sold for radios as an accessory. Now a lot of them have it built in. They're fairly useless on some, especially if you have like an HT with the pan adapter setting. It does absolutely nothing. But they will help you locate signals. You can see where there's activity on the bands. Some are more useful than others. Here's a K3 with the pan adapter output being directed to a regular computer monitor, a large screen. And it's very pretty. You know, one thing about software defined or with the Super VGA outputs now, they're very attractive to look at. All right, so here we have, this is a Flex Radio software, Power SDR. And in this case, it's running my 1500, my Flex 1500. It combines rig control with filtering and just all kinds of access. Your filters, you have a lot more control over your filters. You can just click to select a filter, plus they're variable, infinitely variable. That's one of the high points of software defined, is that instead of just having one sideband filter or two sideband filters, and you know how expensive it is if you want to buy like a 1.8 kilohertz sideband filter, you have a variability that's unmatchable. So why do you want to consider software defined? All right, so radios are now starting to look more and more like computers. SDRs provide a high performance, extremely flexibility. Upgrades are very simple. Just download the upgrades. The software changes. If you have a band plan change, like 60 meters changed, it's an update, and you're ready to go. And you can get into this very cheaply now. About a year ago or so, these hackers found out that the RTL 2820 chip and these DV dongles for running TV and FM could be expanded and used as software-defined radios. And this was 20 bucks. I just got it on Amazon, and it covers from like 10 kilohertz to 2.4 gigahertz.
Which chip?
The RTL 2820U.
That's the chip that's in my little Wi-Fi dongle to connect wirelessly.
There you go.
It's the same chip.
Yep, it's in everything, and it's very easily hacked, and there's nothing to it. You just download a driver and get going. There were also a lot of SDR kits. This is how I got involved with the club initially with Great South Bay. We were looking for a kit to build, and I had heard about Tony Parks and his soft rocks, and we thought it would be a lot of fun to get involved with it. One of the drawbacks with some of these kits is there are a lot of surface mount components, but if you don't tell people they're hard to do and just show them how to do it, it's not too bad. Don't scare people. I had guys with blowtorches up there trying to... So back in 2011, we thought it'd be fun, and we ordered a whole bunch of these kits, and we decided to build them. We got the kits together. We had them all sorted, pre-sorted, went through, and got down to business. And this is what the kit looked like when it was done. The hardest chip on there was this little, it's very hard to see. There's this little chip right here, and it's 5 pins, and it's about that big, and it's a voltage control chip. Okay, and again, I mentioned the USB TV capture cards. They can actually act as a spectrum analyzer if you have the right software running with it. And this is the only piece of hardware required, and an adapter to plug in for your antenna. At the time when I was doing this, only 2 sticks had been tested, and the largest frequency range was 64 to 1.7 gigahertz at the time, 64 megahertz. Now they're expanded quite a bit, like I said, 10 kilohertz to 2.4 gigahertz, at least they claim. The website that has a lot of information about these in particular, or using any of these dongles, is this sdr.osmocom.org. He has a wiki site up there and a lot of information. This is the website, what it looks like. If you're a programmer, he's got information about doing the programming to write software for these devices. But more importantly, he has a link for the software that will do the automatic installation of a driver to run your USB port and get the external I/O software to run different packages. One of the biggest pains in the butt with SDR is the computer hardware. I never used one of these before last week. I never had an interest in using one because I have the Flex, I have a QS1R, I have an IQ adapter for my 940 that I play with. But I figured since now these are so available and people are using them, I'd get one and play with it a little. And one computer would run it on HD SDR. Sometimes the other computer would only run it with SDR Sharp software. So you can run into problems with the USB ports. Sometimes if you're not plugging into the back USB port, the real USB port, if you have those extended USB ports in front, some hardware doesn't like that. My Flex will run on the extended USB port on my Alienware computer. This will not. This actually runs best on this little tiny thing for some reason. There's a lot of commercial choices out there now. If you want, you can pair your rig with an SDR receiver. That's right now, that's my current favorite option. Transceivers have increased in the market big time. And last couple of years, we were looking at the Tapper HD SDR, the high-def SDR high-definition software-defined radio project that they were running. It involved this big backplane you had to buy. Separate cards were being manufactured by different people in the organization. Special sound cards, transmitter cards, receiver cards. Now a company in India, Anand, has, we'll get to that in a second. Anand has actually combined some of those cards together into a commercial unit, and they vary in different prices also. If you go to Wikipedia, there's a real good list now available of all these software-defined radios. It's on Wikipedia. There's a wiki list. You just do a search for list of software-defined radios. And it's several pages long. This is the beginning of it, and I have it sorted here alphabetically, I think. And you can see the Apache Labs, or the company in India. Theirs run between $1,700 and about $3,500 for their systems. One of the bigger differences in most of when you start getting into these high-end SDRs is how much spectrum you can look at one time, and how many different slices. If you look at the software, the Flex ads now for their 6700 series, they'll show you they're looking at 12 bands at once or something. You know, it's like What are you going to do with 12 bands at once, really? I mean, maybe the one you're operating on, maybe another one that you're looking at for something else, I don't know. But some people like that. This list is great. It has all about the different units, compares them, and it shows you their prices, and it gives links to the websites where you can find more information about them. And that's just a sample of some of those units that I was able to find by just looking and getting some pictures of them. A lot of these SDR units are very small. You look at like these Flex units, you'd see a Flex 6700, you look at the picture and you're picturing like, you know, a 950 or something, a big Yaesu radio, and you go look at it and it's like nothing. There's not a lot inside anymore. Commercial receivers. You might have seen this one. This one's been around for a while. It's made in Italy. It's the Perseus. They've come down a bit. Universal Radio has these in their catalog. They're down to about $1,000 now. They used to be about $1,200. I believe this one only goes up to 30 megahertz. I don't recall. 30 might go up to 6 meters. Wind Radio is very famous. They have a lot of surveillance type equipment also, a lot of commercial stuff, plus the amateur radio end of it. They're very high end, but you're very limited with some of these radios to the software you can run, which gets to be a restriction. I'm currently using this, the QS1R receiver. I really like this a lot. I'm using this with my TS940 and an RF sensing TR switch. One of the things I like about the QS1R is when I'm operating with their software, with his software, Phil Covington's software, you can plug into a direct DAC out on the back of the unit, and there's no delay in the audio. Otherwise, the audio has to go into the computer, and you have about a 3/4 of a second delay. Unusable for CW. Also, this unit is a very high sample rate. I can record up to 2 megahertz of spectrum in RF, which is really impressive. It takes a lot of CPU to do that, but you get this nice display of everything from like the shortwave band all the way through 20 meters and above 20 meters if you want. That's a screen capture of his software. I personally don't like his software. It's very hard to use. Once you set it up, it works okay, but when you close it and reopen it, it doesn't remember all the windows that you had open. And his notch filters are very weird. You have to figure out how many hertz off center from your center frequency the tone is. You want to cancel and enter the number exactly yourself. So it's not too intuitive. I had gotten this dongle a while back to play with. Got it, installed it, played with it, didn't use it anymore. I know a lot of us do that, right? And then this was before these little dongles got popular. So there's quite a bit of difference, 20 bucks and 175. So the availability, if you just want to get in and start playing with things, these are very good entry. I mentioned this company in India with the Apache Labs. They're taking what's called these Hermes transceiver cards, and they're putting them in there, and they're 10 kilohertz to 55 megahertz. And they range from $900 again to about $3,500, depending on what you want to get into it. And most of the difference is how much spectrum you can look at and how many slices. All right, and then we come to Flex. Everybody's heard of Flex Radio. They've been in QST for a long time now. I think it was 4 years ago or 3 years ago. Jeff from out in Custer Institute was doing an SDR demo here, and he's an astrophysicist, so he got very technical right off the bat. And at the time, before he was coming down to do that demo, he didn't have a radio to bring down here with him. So he had called me, and I said, well, I'll see what I can do. And I was trying to find someone to bring one down, and I ended up just buying the 1500 to play with. And I love it. Once you get used to using an SDR, especially being able to click and just find and move around, and the control you have over the received signal and the AGC and the level controls and noise filtering, you really don't want to go back to any other way. It's like operating blind. So the 1500 is a little brick about this big, and they're about 700 bucks. Usually around Christmas time, they're like $100 off. They usually drop the prices for the season. The 3000 is the size of a laptop, and it's a 100-watt radio with a built-in antenna tuner. It's a nice unit. And again, the difference in these, as they go up also, besides power, is how much spectrum you can look at. The 1500 is a USB device, and will let you look at 48 kilohertz of spectrum at a time. And I find it's enough. The 3000 doubles that to 96 kilohertz. And then the 5000 will give you a full 192 kilohertz, which is like what your top-end sound card will give you. The 5000, since they came out with the 6000 series, has been discontinued. They were very high-end at the time. You were able to get a second receiver with them, do diversity stuff. You were able to get a VHF, UHF board, and again, an internal antenna tuner if you wanted it. When Flex introduced the 6000 series, they had done a pre-order for them. They run from $4,300 to $7,500. Does anybody actually own one of them? Because I'd really like to see one, because I'm never going to be able to buy one. And I just don't see how you would spend. I guess there are guys that spend $10,000 for radios, but again, the Flex, the big thing with them now with this system is they're running what's called Smart Sdr software, and their software now has, I think, 7 slices available. You can look at 7 bands at once. Here's the 6700 being demoed at Dayton, and you can see it's supposedly now they're a lot better with the CW also. If you're going to do CW with most SDRs, you really want to be a paddle guy using the internal keyer of the SDR. Otherwise, there's that just enough of a lag and side tone that it's impossible to operate a straight key with them. And these are pictures of the 1500 top left, the 3000. You can see it's the size of a laptop. And there's the 5000, which you would think would be this big radio, but there it is by a set of speakers. It's very small. They really pack a lot in there. And it really is all about the receiver. I don't do much HF the last year. I've been very busy, but I always get on the Sunday Racies net. And running this software-defined receiver, I'm able to pick guys up. I'm able to hear every station on the net usually. I'm also able to record, and I don't usually record RF. I usually record it as an audio file while I'm doing the nets, because it's nice to be able to, if someone's got an audio problem on their radio, or if they got feedback, or if they got a hum, it's one thing to be able to tell somebody, hey, you've got a hum in your audio. It's even better if you take that audio file, cut a little clip out of it with Audacity, and email it to them. Say, here's what you sound like. Filtering. If you're a CW operator and if you can set it up right, there's nothing like software defined for filtering. You can get down really narrow. This is the Flex software, the Power Sdr software. And you can see here I'm down with a 25 kilohertz filter, with an actual signal on top of another signal, and completely isolated them. And on the right there, that's a 10 hertz filter with absolutely no ringing at all. It's incredible. Even the HD Sdr software that I really like a lot to record with, once you get down about 200 hertz with that software, I don't know what kind of algorithms, what the differences between them, but this software is quiet, and even the HD Sdr starts ringing below 200 hertz or about 150 hertz. You can see here these are the variable settings, the low and high, and the buttons that will give you instant filter settings, which changed with the mode that you're operating. Other operating modes tend to be more intuitive also. I don't know about you. Myself, when on my 940, you have the SSB high and low slope and tuning and all this. I'll be listening to a signal, I hear QRM on the signal, and I try to cut it out, and I'm moving knobs all over the place, and nothing's happening. With the SDR, I look, I can see the signal that's offending me, I can just cut it over, move it, notch some stuff out, and it's gone. You get instant feedback. All right, filter width. This is just basically software-specific operating stuff. You're able to adjust your filters either by clicking buttons or by actually putting your mouse over the edge of the filter, of the passband that you can see, and moving it back and forth for variability. The HD Sdr software also has a little window with just the passband in it, so you can add your notch filters in there. All right, so you can move the passband back and forth. Visually looking at these signals, you can also see what their signal bandwidth looks like. If someone's operating, like the guys that I hear on 75 meters with those commercial AM rigs, you know who I'm talking about? They're running 20 kilowatts or whatever they're running up there in Vermont, talking 100 feet to their neighbor. Talk about splatter. You know, you can see the signal above, the signal below, over here, the harmonics over here, and you can see them. Here's an example of software upgradability. This was, last year was the latest version at the time. Flex software has new notch filters as of last year. They have what's called tracking notch filters. It used to be if you were going to notch out, you had to use an automatic notch filter. One of the things that the Sdr software has that's nice is you can put up to 10 filters right in that pass band. You just click them and roll them and make them as wide as you want and notch out all these signals. So if you have 3 guys interfering, you can notch them out without it causing a problem. Now with the Flex software, you put these notch filters in and you can adjust how deep they are, how wide they are, and set them to be permanent if you'd like. So say you live in an area where you have a signal of some QRN coming in from a power line or something, and it's always got a little hump right there. You can put a notch filter on that, and anytime you start the software up and go back to that frequency, when you come there, you'll see that filter out waiting to be activated. As long as the filter's outside the pass band, the computer's not working with it, so it's not taking any overhead. Until it comes into the pass band, then the filter starts being active. Here's the HDSDR with 10 notch filters set up. And it's great. Click, roll, and cancel, and turn them on and off. Again, I had mentioned earlier about turning your rig into an SDR. Maybe I didn't. Turning your actual rig into an SDR, into the receiver. Tony, KB9YIG, the inventor of the Soft Rocks, he was making a Soft Rock IF version that you could get to make IQ from your rig's second IF stage, which is usually around 8 megahertz. You were able to take that IQ, feed it into a software-defined program, and you had all the filtering of an SDR from your regular rig. So good receivers, like my 940's got a great receiver. I had gotten this IQ adapter called LP PAN adapter made by Telepost. And it was fantastic because the Kenwood already has a jack with the IF out. So it was very easy to modify my system to do that. I just plugged it in, used that, plugged it in. You had to get a higher end sound card. And that's the unit. And I had to get a 192 kilohertz sound card to be able to run the full spectrum. This is my 940 running as a software-defined receiver. Only problem, again, hardware. Windows did not like running my high-end sound card, so it would be running nice for a while, and then all of a sudden, blue screen. Reboot the computer, blue screen. So I abandoned this system for that, because of that, until I can get something different to run it with. But wait, there's more. Another thing you can do with your software-defined systems on some is you can control everything about the transmitter too. There's all these options. It's insane, all the options and menus that come with this software. Most of them I have no idea what they do or what they mean. I rely on the people on the web, on the user groups or on the forum, on the Flex forum, to tell me what they mean and how they do it. But I was sitting there one day and we were talking because some guys had gotten a official observer notice being out of band. And no matter how many times you tell new operators, watch your band edges, it happens. Well, with the Flex and the Power SDR software, I said, well, let me see how much control I have. So here I am testing my receiver, my transmitter, with a 3 kilohertz bandwidth. Went into the software, changed the bandwidth. There's my output now with a 2 kilohertz, actually a 1900 hertz transmit signal. So now I can actually sneak up to the edge of the band, make sure I record it, so when they send me a notice saying you were too close to the band edge, I can say, yeah, but my signal was not exceeding over. So you do have quite a bit of control, and you can't do that with a regular unit. Something else that's been new lately is called the MDSDR LIF project. I believe this is a Ham Radio Now video is available that has this in it, and that's why I included it. It's MDSDR stands for modulator demodulator software defined radio, and it uses a low intermediate frequency conversion card, changing your IFs out to 12 kilohertz. Most of the radios that these cards have been designed for that you build have work on IF frequencies of 455 kilohertz or 9 megahertz. So like Kenwoods and Yaesus pretty much. And the idea is to tap off the internal IF stage and bring it out to these cards with just a little tap and a feed through capacitor or something. They've got these cards and tested on a bunch of rigs already. If you want more information about this, users.skynet.b, or just do a search for MDSDR and LIF, and you'll get this. Pete, WB2OQQ, wants to do this for his 817, so we're going to play with that. Some radios already have the tap in them. Others, these guys have been testing them and playing with it, and they show you exactly where to tap off the IF. But be warned, if you go into your radio, if you have a nice, Yaesu 950 or something, and you go in there and you start soldering wires onto these surface-mounted capacitors and taking IF signals out, yes, tear up your warranty. But hey, who doesn't do their mods on their radios, right?
And if it's second-hand, it doesn't have a warranty.
Right. All right, this is the Sdr software, and I've never used it, so I don't know anything more about it. All right, so what are some of the drawbacks? Okay, I always said, paraphrasing Jaws, we're going to need a bigger boat. You're going to need a better computer. The more intensive your software is going to be running, the more CPU and memory you're going to need to run. One of the advantages, though, is if you get a direct sampling SDR system, one that does everything inside their box, then you're just dealing with the I and Q coming out and being used in your computer to do the filtering, and a lot of that's even done inside some of these units. And again, if you're going to be doing like that telepost LP pan adapter that I was playing with the 940, you need a high-end sound card. And unfortunately, a lot of these sound cards don't have drivers for like Windows 7, or the last time they had a driver update was Windows XP. A lot of them aren't on the market anymore, or you have to buy them secondhand, eBay.
What's your opinion of the Tigertronics sound link?
I have no idea, not a clue. Never used one. I've got mostly Dell computers and an Alienware, and they had recommended the Delta 44 sound card for 96 kilohertz bandwidth.
Because this thing is a little USB external sound card. Plug it into a USB port.
Usually, it depends. It depends on how much power it's got into it. Usually you need independent jacks. I had to have 4 inputs and outputs to run this 940 off this LP pan adapter. So you need stereo in, stereo out, because the I and the Q have to be handled individually. The Telepost website, it's actually been updated, but the sound card chart that they had listed these, the Creative Labs, and it went from best, better, good, and again, you had to find out who's using what they recommend, what drivers are available. If it says not tested, it's probably going to blue screen you, and it does. You can also check out SDRs online. If you go to websdr.org, a lot of people have taken their soft rocks and other receivers and they put them online, and using Java, you click on their links, you go to their website, and it'll have either several receivers or one receiver at a time available, and you could actually go on there and listen to, say, Moscow, audio from right from Moscow live, and maybe key up your transmitter and do a test and see if you can hear yourself. And this is that website, what it looks like. And it's also got some more people on it now than it used to have. And that's the WebSDR with one of their bands selected on one of the websites. And here I'm listening to 160 meters. And it's just like an SDR software. You just drag the band pass around wherever you want. You find a signal, you drag it over to it, and you hear it. You could do fine tuning with the little buttons. You could change your bandwidth. You could change your modes. and buyer beware. And I got some recorded audio stuff I can play for you. Any questions so far? Everybody got any questions? Okay, this is the Sdr software. I love this software. This is free. It works with a lot of different radios, a lot of receivers. One of the advantages it has, flex radio. If you have a flex and you're going to record something, all you can record is the audio. So you can record audio, play audio back, just like listening to the recording, no problem. With this system, I can choose whether I want to record RF, the intermediate frequencies, or I can record just audio. And I can schedule. And if I tell it to auto start, even if the software is off, and as long as the computer's on, it'll start itself up and start recording when I tell it to, as long as you leave your radio on. So normally, like I said, I record mostly with audio, but a lot of times I'll record RF to use in class, because it's nice, you talk to someone about single sideband or AM modes or PSK, but it's even better to be able to show them what the waveform actually looks like on the spectrum. So this is some 80 meters recorded in RF.
I dialed the number. It's I said, "Where's Leroy?" or whatever name was up there, and the guy says, "Why?" I
So
said,
now
"I
this
wanna
is
know
recorded
why
back
he's calling me."
in
I
January
said,
of
"Where are you
2012.
located anyway?" The guy says, "California." I said,
And
"Oh."
it's the full RF.
I said, "Well,
I'm
who's
recording
this
about
guy
100
Leroy?"
kilohertz of spectrum.
He said, "It
And
might
I can
be
go
one
in
of the
through here
car
and
sales,
tune in
but he was
anybody
a
that was on the air that
Toyota
day. Or not on the air.
dealer. At this time, stations in region 3. Over.
No, I guess it's called the Five Corners or Four Corners.
Lost to the Giants in 1958. Lost to the Colts in 1958.
So if you're doing some contesting,
Oh, okay.
or if you're trying to monitor something, you can record all that
That's right,
spectrum.
The greatest game ever.
And like I said, my unit, with the QS1R receiver, I can record 2 megahertz. So I can record entire bands, plus. But again, that takes a lot of CPU. Plus, the files, if you're recording RF, they're enormous.
Yeah, that goes a little bit before my
Just
time.
recording audio is a lot
I
easier.
would have been about 10.
Sometimes you can also record different bands. So here, for instance, very noisy.
One of those low testosterone clinics, and the doctor prescribed these confusing, expensive
So,
drugs
there's some
and supplements.
AM
That's why I went to
broadcast
the
band.
Andropause Center. I got a board-certified urologist, not some doctor with a quick fix, so-called cure. I got medically proven drugs tailored just for me and regular.
So he's happy. Yes.
When you're listening back, if you want to introduce some filtering that you didn't when you were listening the first time, you still have the option.
You still have the option. So here, for instance, let me go back to that other file. All right, so let's listen to the 80 meters.
Yeah, my insurance policy
Paid off. But,
And here I've zoomed in also. I've got control over how much spectrum I'm going to look at.
Well, anyway,
I can set minimum, maximum signal levels. I can change my windows. This down here, this window is the
Did
actual
you get much up there, George?
demodulated audio in the passband.
No,
So
maybe
here's the
3
filter.
inches or so.
I can control the width.
Yeah, I saw.
Do you want to see a notch filter
Westbrook,
demonstration? So here's the tone. Very good. All right, so he's notched out.
George, Frank, Lee.
Good morning, all.
As long as she's not here.
Good morning, Bill. Morning, Bill.
All right, so the noise reduction, again, you put on noise reduction, and I have sliders to control how much I want to apply. One of the things that I find most useful is this AGC
I gotta
threshold.
learn how to use the thing though.
When I'm
because
listening
was
and I have a
getting
lot of
little bit
background
with
noise, I'll
coming off
take the
edge
AGC and
when
just
it
slide
should-
it down
I
a
don't
bit,
think it should have.
and
I didn't examine why.
it'll drop that background noise down. So you have infinite variability to how much control you have on these settings, instead of just like fast, slow, off.
You mean it didn't clean right down to the pavement, or what?
All right, noise
No,
blankers,
it
they
was,
work pretty good usually.
Pushing it off to the.
For
it
CW,
was going past the edge.
a lot of these will have the automatic CW hunt finder. So for the CW guys, let's see. Come on. That's not good. Where's my audio?
Do you still have that filter turned on?
Sounds like you're very narrow.
Oh, you know what? No, well, it's actually, let's see, about 200 hertz filter. Let's try that again. Hi, Adele.
Hello, Kevin. Want to smile at the camera? Thank you.
Couldn't shut the CW up earlier. My normal computer died the other day. My USB isn't working on it anymore, so I have to choose this one. So I'm missing a lot of the files I would normally be playing with. So sorry.
10 lashes with a wet.
I know, right? So bottom line, software-defined radio is great, but it also sucks. I actually recorded a little bit the other day with the with this little thing, the Sdr Sharp. This is the software you use with these. It's a little more awkward to use. You have to play with it. It wasn't too bad. Once I found the AGC stuff and set all that going, I was able to record stuff. So broadcast FM. I was listening to Line Market Jam too. Anyway, so there's tons of different software out there. One of the things I like the Power Sdr software. For whatever reason, again, the filtering written for that works really well. It's open source. There's different versions out there available. There's Power Sdr IF that's been written that I use with the 940. There's Power Sdr IQ that works with the Soft Rocks and some other radios. Again, it's software. It's what you want to do with the radio and what mode you operate. If you're a sideband guy and you do a lot of contesting, you can't beat SDR for what you can see and what you can how you can control the signals. Any questions? Hi.
With the Sdr Sharp software, I was playing with it a couple of weeks ago, and I put it aside. I couldn't get out of the broadcast band at all with the dongle that I was using. So, looking on YouTube, and I thought it had something to do with the center frequency setting. You know?
You have to that Osmo website. There's a did you load the driver?
Yeah, no, it's working. I mean, I can get it working, but I can't.
Yeah, but there's I think for like ham use or extending the range. There's this. I'll show you what it's called. Let's see.
It's not tough getting answers.
Yeah.
I used it in the Yahoo group. It's hard to search
The Zadig. Did you run Zadig? Yeah. Well, again, it's idiosyncrasies, and you got to make sure. Did you hit the control with the Sdr Sharp for the dongle? When you actually, let me see. If I plug this in, okay, disconnect my.
Hey, by the way, the HDSDR software, would that work with these dongles?
Supposedly, supposed to. I have the XIO, the external I/O software for it, and you have to put that and make sure you put it in the directory for HDSDR, but it doesn't work on this one For whatever reason, it won't load. When I hit the external I/O button, it says fail to load. So it's hit or miss with everything, what's going to work. Okay, I don't have a mouse anymore. So, okay, so we're going to select the RTL SDR USB. And not responding. Oh, configure. Now we hit the configure button, and that opens that external I/O controller for the dongle. I had a real hard time getting any signals at all until I came in here and cranked the gain way up down here and turned on the RTL and tuner AGCs. Once I turned them on, the band came up and everything was like really, the signals were big.
Okay, thanks. I'll take a look at that.
Sure.
Like I said, I can look at the broadcast band, listen to AM, FM sounds great, decoding, codes that come in.
You got to watch these modes too. With the if you're listening to trying to listen to 2 meters, 440 like that, you have to be on narrow FM. And then if you go into the broadcast band, wide FM. I was playing with it a bit yesterday. Like I said, I was listening to guys yesterday. Also, you have to calibrate these. All SDRs have a little bit of calibration you might have to do, and it's really simple. Especially for HF, you just tune in WWV. You let your system warm up for like 20 minutes, a half hour, so the oscillator gets nice and hot, and then you tune in WWV in sideband mode or AM mode. Zoom all the way in to WWV's center frequency, the carrier. And if you're displaying 15 megahertz and your carrier's off a little, you just crank in a little bit of correction. And usually once you enter the correction and center up that carrier, you never have to touch it again. This one I had to correct. It wasn't too bad. Whatever it was for this, let's see. 31, whatever that is, parts per million for this one to be centered. And come on. And I just did that by putting an HT in reverse mode and sitting in my house doing like this with it, looking at the center, just adjusting it. High tech. Anybody else?
HT is on frequency.
Oh, it is. I have a lot of stupid test equipment that I calibrated. First thing I do. Yeah, Rich.
I bought the 2-meter SDR and I never built it.
Okay.
Is there anything you see, any advantage of having a 2-meter? It's not the same as you would in an HF, where you can do all the filtering and everything.
No, not really. Not for FM, because we really don't have any noise on FM with all the limiting. It's nice to be able to record it. I mean, the only thing, like I said, the other day was the first time I really played with FM using this.
They don't make a tracking thing so you could follow a frequency, say like with a satellite?
AGC? Oh, you mean, yeah, actually Ham Radio Deluxe. If you use Ham Radio Deluxe, they have a satellite application in there. And it's got the Doppler built into it. So if you just update your satellites so it has all the latest KEPs, if it's tracking the satellite and it will, if it's controlling your rig, if you have a rig control that will work with your radio, it will sit there. You'll see the frequency varying at just the right rate. The Doppler shift along the whole thing, just continuously. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I just recently bought a satellite antenna. Maybe in a few months I might take it out of the bag and put it together. I like the idea of a lot of this stuff more than I actually like doing it. I have a very short attention span, so I play with things and then I get very fascinated by them, play with them, and then get bored and do something else. Anybody else? Anything? Okay, thanks.